One of, if not the most intriguing prospects in the entire 2019 NFL draft class is Baylor wide receiver, yes, wide receiver, Jalen Hurd. We're going to get into him and just why he's so intriguing next in our 2019 NFL Draft Profile Series right here on DynastyLeagueFootball.com.
The NFL Draft Profile Series, NFL prospects, break it down, let's get it. People's pen and the gridiron scholar, time to do it major. Let's see who running the field, let's analyze the data. Yeah, let's go.
So when I led, I said wide receiver, and that's because we remember Jalen Hurd as the running back at Tennessee who kept not only John Kelly but Alvin Kamara off the field in featured roles. Jalen Hurd was a dynamic running back. In fact, he was so well regarded coming out of Tennessee in high school that he was still a top 10 recruit, having missed the majority of his senior year of high school. That's how dynamic this guy has been in the past. Now, John, he moves to Baylor as a wide receiver because he wanted to change positions due to his size. The guy has grown to now 6'5", but also because he was getting concussions as a running back and wanted to make the positional change. Tennessee didn't want to grant that, so he moves to Baylor, which we know can put up some gaudy receiving numbers. And sure enough, he finishes with a pretty spectacular debut as a wide receiver in one season with the Baylor Bears. So what else do we need to know about this guy, John? Is he somebody that you can see really becoming something special at the next level?
Andy, fascinating prospect. And this just shows you the depth and breadth of this wide receiver class when you add Jalen Hurd amongst the top 20 prospects. I think he made a very astute professional decision leaving the running back position and going to wanting to play at wide receiver. Now in high school, he was a 5-star recruit and one of the top running prospects in the nation. As a freshman at Tennessee in 2014, he led the Volunteers in rushing with 899 yards, playing ahead of Alvin Kamara. As a sophomore, I had drafted him in my college fantasy football league drafts, and he finished fourth in the SEC with 1,288 rushing yards. He was the first sophomore in school history with over 1,000 yards on the ground. And the Volunteers have a terrific catalog of NFL runners who produce big time at the college level. Now, he was injured in 2016, like you mentioned, and he only played in 7 games. And that's when he made a decision that he wanted to play wide receiver. But the Volunteers didn't want to transition him to the wide receiver position. So he transferred to Baylor, and he redshirted for the entire 2017 campaign. Last year, he was named the Big 12 Newcomer of the Year after catching 69 passes for 946 yards and 4 touchdowns. Hey, this young man has had an impressive college career. Andy, he has 2,844 career rushing yards with 23 touchdowns. He also has 135 catches for 1,438 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now, if you look at his yards per reception, you're going to see a 10.6. That's because many of those receptions came out of the backfield. So it's difficult to have him compete with wide receivers when almost half of his catches were as a running back. We didn't have a great 40-yard dash time at his pro day, but his 20-yard shuttle was impressive for a young man who's 6'5" and 228 pounds. Yes, my friends, he is 6'5", 228. I clearly think he made the right decision wanting to play wide receiver. He's a big-body prospect who is still learning to play the position. He's a versatile football player who owns soft and reliable hands. He's a fluid athlete with good body control. He has toughness and a competitive nature. He's not afraid to mix it up with defenders in the middle of the field. Hey, the man was taking handoffs between the tackles in the SEC. He wasn't afraid to go in the middle of the gridiron to make a catch. He has quick feet, and he's explosive runner after the catch. He has wiggle and slipperiness to elude tacklers, and that clearly comes from his running back background. He's a willing blocker in the run game. He can be nasty out wide or put into motion as an H-back to crack down on linebackers. Now, he has lack of receiving experience and a limited route tree. He had knee surgery at the end of this season, so he's recovering from that. He looks like a possession receiver in the NFL, and I have a 5th-round grade on Jalen Hurd. Andy, what do you think about this young man?
You mentioned the knee injury, and at his pro day, he ran a 4.66 40. It's rumored, though, that he can run a 4.47 for the same distance, which when you add that to 6'5", 228, and the rushing and the receiving now that he's shown, it's just like this is a unique player, and I think an offensive coordinator is going to have a lot of fun using him. We remember Cordell Stewart getting the moniker Slash for just being this unique weapon, especially in the red zone. Then we look at more recently, I remember last year covering Jalen Samuels and talking about how he's going to be the new Swiss Army knife of the NFL, where he's not going to have a traditional role. And we saw that this past year, where he's listed on some sites as a tight end and as a running back. And he was basically able to help teams have an advantage because of that. Jalen Hurd had a 19% red zone share with Baylor, which to me is just remarkable. I mean, this guy is a true weapon. He can still run the ball. He still had 48 carries at Baylor for 200 yards, a 4.4 yards per carry rate. He had 98 targets in his first year as a true receiver, caught 69 of those balls, just shy of 1,000 yards as a receiver. But when you put it all together, this is somebody that's going to give an offense an advantage. That frame alone, especially in the red zone, I think this is a unique weapon and something that we haven't really seen before. So I don't know if it all comes together. I don't know if he's a player that you can rely on a down-to-down basis, but the upside is there. And as some scouts have said, his best days are still ahead of him. So this is a guy that's on the rise. Not a lot of people are necessarily talking about him because the production really hasn't been there. He doesn't line up with other wide receivers in this class at that position. He hasn't really been regarded as a running back since he made the move. So people aren't really looking at him because he doesn't really fit into the criteria of what we're looking at these positions. Don't make that mistake. Don't let Jalen Hurd slip past you because he's a lottery ticket and he's probably going to be somebody you get later on in your fantasy drafts, but somebody that has the upside to be somebody we look back and say, this is just a football player. This is just a guy that gets it done, and a team is going to find a way to use him. What do you think about Jalen Hurd? Are we being too optimistic about him becoming Slash 2.0? I don't know. Is he possibly a better Jalen Samuels at the next level? Leave it in the comments below. Let us know what you think. Or is Jalen Hurd somebody you're targeting? Go check out the other players we've covered. Subscribe to the channel if you can. And if you like audio podcasts better, this is available in that format as well. You can check out other great podcasts and articles on DynastyLeagueFootball.com, as well as John's written work, including many more prospects than what we're covering here on FootballDiehards.com. And you can check out my newly launched website, ExpandTheBoxScore.com, where you can see every touch of every player, including Jalen Hurd and his efficiency as a newly formed wide receiver at Baylor. Thanks for checking us out today. Hope you enjoyed this episode.